Hi, I'm Matt Palazzolo, one of the co-founders of the Equal Roots Coalition. What you're about to see is a recording of a conference call that occurred on February 11th, 2009, between California Speaker of the Assembly Karen Bass, Assemblymember John Perez, and members of the LGBT community. The purpose of the call was to have members of the LGBT community ask the Speaker and Assemblymember, what can we do for you? What can we do for California? And then to receive guidance and suggestions from the two guests on the conference call about what issues the LGBT community can start approaching outside of our own community to begin building bridges, and what the best ways to approach those issues are. So this call was organized by the Courage Campaign, Equality Network, the Equal Roots Coalition, Postcards to the President, White Knot, and One Together. And I hope you enjoy and get some good organizing ideas from this call.
He's a member of the State Central Committee of the Democratic Party on the Executive Committee of the Executive Board of the Democratic Party. And really something that we all have to keep in mind is that the Assembly member ran for Assembly in a district in LA where he doesn't get any particular benefit for being a gay man. Quite the contrary. He ran and is very, very popular in the district, but it's not a district where a lot of people are used to seeing openly gay politicians succeed. And so we have someone who's new to the legislature, not new to progressive politics, not new to the LGBT community, and not new to merging disparate communities. And so that's Assemblymember Perez. And when time permits, we're going to be joined by Speaker Bass, who's a little bit busy with budget negotiations in their current final iteration. So with that long peroration, I want to turn the call over to Sarah Palaro and Frank Voci. Sarah?
Hi, Assemblymember Perez. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to speak with us. Your time is very valuable, I'm sure, but we really value your input so much. And at this time, we thought it would be a great idea to jump right into the questions.
Great. So that will be me, Frank Voci. Just a quick note before we actually start with the questions to the other participants on the call. The questions we're going to ask represent the collective responses from many of the members of the LGBT groups that are on this call. So these are kind of the condensed version of all the things that people thought of in the last couple of days. The first of those being, number one, where are there needs that grassroots groups like ours can be effective on a tactical one-on-one basis?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, all three of you, for making this possible and for organizing this call. I think part of it is something you've already started. When you look at the work that Courage Campaign did leading up to today and including today in drawing attention to the fact that what the Republicans are trying to do in this budget process is not just change the value system of our budget, but quite frankly to extort the Democratic majority to make drastic changes in environmental law and labor law that's really in conflict with the values of most people in California. The work that Courage Campaign did in drawing attention to that and in calling on the Attorney General, both here in the state and the federal Attorney General, to investigate that level of corruption and vote trading requests is key. I think the other thing is what we're learning is that we have a whole set of opportunities with people that are blogging and using other social networking to draw attention to what's at stake in this budget. And it's really a historic crisis. $42 billion deficit. The fact that we're one of only 3 states in the country that requires a 2/3 majority to pass a bill so that a few people are really able to subvert the will of the majority. And so whatever you can do in terms of blogging and engaging other people in your own networks to draw attention to those facts is really the single most important thing you can do.
Great, thank you. The second question, we combined a couple that were a little long. So this kind of goes along with what you were saying. What non-monetary efforts can the LGBT community lend to environmental and school programs that may be affected by the new budget?
Well, it still remains to be seen what the final impacts of the budget are going to be. So, like anything else, organized volunteer efforts. I think it's important for folks to kind of see a collective presence of members of our community out there engaged in places that aren't traditionally seen as the gay and lesbian community. So, hey, come into my district. I got lots of schools with need that we would love to have a presence of folks from the LGBT community come out and engage in things from after-school tutoring to doing basic education about, environmental poisons in the community. That kind of direct hands-on work is crucial. And if you organized a group of volunteers on a regular basis, I'd be happy to put people from my staff and others to help pair them up with different communities where we have really an opportunity to do some bridge building.
This is Rick, can I just jump in real quick and make a suggestion, which is that you have some folks on this call, probably about 45 people or more, who are all organizers. Every single one of them is an organizer. Every single one's a community organizer, even though they may not think of themselves that way, which means every single one could be president now. But as Assemblymember, as you're making some suggestions like this, I would maybe offer up that as specific as you want to get, I think would be very helpful to people.
Well, let me give you one very, very specific request. So, for example, I represent areas around downtown and the east side of LA. I've got a city of Vernon, which is an incredibly industrial city. Some of the greatest amounts of pollution come out of that city versus anywhere else. And we're engaged in a protracted fight about putting a gross polluting energy plant right in the middle of a community where you have the highest per capita rates of asthma. Yet the organized folks around the Coalition for Clean Air and others haven't latched onto it because it's very specific. 2 weeks ago, we had a town hall forum with over 400 people in the room, but they were all folks from those communities. So to get folks from other parts of Southern California to come and engage in understanding that as we're dealing with the broader issues of global climate change, there's also some real need to protect poor communities from continuing to be the dumping grounds from the environmental ills that are out there. That would be one of the most powerful things that I think people on this call could be engaged in right now. And so I'd be happy to follow up with you and invite folks to engage and to write about it and to help us do community organizing, in our effort to make sure the city of Vernon doesn't continue to and I don't mean this to be a hyperbolic statement, but doesn't continue to kill people in the neighboring communities.
I think that's something that we would definitely be interested in. All of our groups have outreach committees that are looking for opportunities to step outside the LGBT community and better our communities in California. So that'd be something that we would definitely be interested in doing and working on.
Great. This is Frank again. For our next question, Assemblymember, in following with what you were saying about the current issues with California and the budget and also with the outreach we just spoke about, we would also like to build relationships that benefit the LGBT community in our own struggles for equality. What constituent groups, demographic, geographic, or both, do you think we'd find the most symbiotic relationships and the most productive, with whom the most productive work could be done?
Well, look, I think that over the last several years, there's been great work with the labor community, and I think you saw the benefit of that during the last election, and quite frankly, after our defeat, at the polls, when the labor movement stepped up to the plate to help us in challenging Prop 8. So that relationship has been good. It can continue to be strengthened. The reason it's good is because leaders have stepped up to the plate to say it's not enough for us to go to people and say support us in our struggle, but rather going to them and helping them in their struggle as well. So on the labor front, one thing. The biggest issue for labor right now nationally is the passage of the Employee Free Choice Act, which would allow workers to basically petition to get a union. 78% of workers across the country want a union if they were allowed to do it by that means, but the current set of laws really creates huge impediments to union organizing and opens workers up to intimidation and other techniques by their employers where they end up getting scared out of representation. The other benefit for us is we've got to understand that in times of economic boom, we have success in passing non-discrimination laws like the ones we have here in California. But in other parts of the country that don't have California's laws, a collective bargaining agreement is the single best protection against worksite discrimination. So there's definitely a benefit.